that brings me to my other headline that I'm not going to call horrible, which is that Mamdani won the New York City mayoral election.
He sure did.
He won handedly.
He did, but only, I think, handedly because there was 3 people in the race. But
I haven't looked at the numbers specifically. I will say he was 6 months ago. Jean-Paul was like, "That's never going to happen." And I said, "It is going to happen," and I was right.
yeah, at the time,
I've been right a lot this week.
you have been right a lot this week. You've been right a lot your whole life.
It's true.
So before Cuomo had entered the race, he was beating Zohran by 20 points. So I said, there's no way. But I was absolutely wrong about that.
100,000 people volunteered to work on his campaign. 1 million people voted for him. It had the best voter turnout in the last 50 years in New York City, 60 years in New York City.
Yep. 88% of new registered Democrats were in New York City just for this race. New York State new party signups were in New York City, probably because of his ground game, which was so good.
First Muslim mayor, not the first socialist mayor in New York.
No.
That is, he's
Eric Adams?
Yeah, he's a socialist.
Mike Bloomberg.
Also a socialist.
Long line of socialists.
No, there were socialist mayors many years ago.
The funny thing is, if Cuomo had just run as a Republican, he probably would have won governor, which is, if you think about it, is absolutely, mayor, which is absolutely crazy if you think about it. Well, the Democrat had just run as a Republican, but
he would have had to dispose of Curtis Sliwa to do that.
Yeah. So we don't actually agree on this one that much. And I am much less. I am happy for the people that this meant a lot to, and I have a lot of friends who this meant quite a lot to them. So I'm happy for them that they got to have a victory. I'm also happy that the population, as a barometer of where public opinion is in New York City and the country, I think it's promising that Cuomo didn't win over Zohran, because that would be depressing. Mm-hmm. But just as a sign of like where people are. But as like a political project, I have very severe misgivings. So, do you want to tell me why you're excited about this, or like what makes you happy about this?
I think we agree that as a political project, this is probably not going to work. But
so wait, what? Okay, go ahead.
It's mostly cool. It's mostly exciting to see as a experiment in campaigning, that you could see a campaign run like that and the DSA have that kind of membership and people, and a lot of it's like, as a barometer, it's good news. It's good news that people can vote for a socialist Muslim. It's good news that everyone's excited about that. It's good news that, honestly, it's good news for the whole country that people aren't seeing the Trump administration and being like, I want more of the fascism. So even though they're not necessarily voting,
or so freaked out by it that they're not willing to take risks or go for it.
Yeah. And even though, I think it's exciting that the population can demonstrate that it's more progressive than we were 5 years ago. This population, I think, in this group of people, there's better leftist politics. More people are more engaged in it. There's more leftist parties. There's more leftist organizing. There's more leftist vocabulary in the country now than there has been our entire life. So that's good news. I don't know how he's going to be a socialist mayor of New York City, but it's kind of fun it's also very good news and very fun for me to see all the millions of dollars that rich people had to waste on a campaign that they still got their ass kicked on. Love seeing that.
That is, I think, the best part about this is watching them reveal themselves for what they really are has been very satisfying. For example,
Chuck Schumer.
Well, I was going to say Cuomo ran a gutter racist and openly racist campaign. Yeah. You cannot be Muslim. That means you're a terrorist. You cannot be, this guy is not a religious extremist in any sense of the word. It was only racism that they had. It reminded me of some of what Hillary tried to do to Obama way back when in 2008, but it was more openly, right? It was just sort of gutter open racism, and he should have been condemned out of the party. It should have said, They should have said, "Oh, there's no place in the party for someone who's running a campaign that's this openly racist." And he's running as an independent, I guess, but he should have been sanctioned by censured by the party for the campaign ads that he ran. And they didn't. They all wanted him to win, and everyone knew that they wanted him to win anyway. And this is the last bastion of reactionary politics is extreme racism. It's the last card they play, and they will always play it.
He clearly the standards are low. Obviously, they were made peace with who Cuomo was, and it was and he made it obvious every step of the way how unfit he was for this, how ridiculous it would be for Democrats to support him because is a failed governor who killed old people and sexually harassed young people, and then was explicitly racist over and over again, and also basically spent the entire time dodging ever having to talk to the people he wanted to govern.
Yeah.
And
he felt entitled to govern.
And I think that, yes, it's very good that people like Jeffries and Schumer and all these fucking rich guys like Ackman these people have already revealed themselves for who they are, but they really revealed themselves for who they are, and that's great. And they also wasted a ton of money, and now they're still stuck with this guy as mayor. That's great.
Yeah.
But I think Cuomo could have done anything, and they would have supported him, and that was the agreement from the beginning.
Right, and that's good because it's all on record now. This is what you all believe when push comes to shove. I mean, Cuomo, the campaign strategy to win the primary was that he was going to make. This is another echo of Obama. He was going to make as a genocide a primary issue because he looked at New York and said, "Oh, this is a bunch of Jews. They're going to eat him alive if he sticks to his principles." And Zohran, like Obama was right about the Iraq War at the right time. He wasn't there to make the vote, so he got lucky. Obama got lucky, but he was right about the Iraq War at the right time, and Hillary was wrong about it. And it was on record being wrong about it. And so she was pushed into the right-wing lane of that primary, and he got to run as a reformer. And the same thing is true with Zohran. It's like the more Cuomo wanted to talk about the international issue that had nothing to do with governing New York City, the better Zohran did, because people saw he was right about that issue at the right time. Everyone saw this horror unleashed. They do not support the Democratic Party's position on it. I think the Democratic Party wants you to believe that you have to have that position to be a viable candidate, right? Because that's the only way to get enough donors and that the public opinion is what it is and yada yada. And Zohran was like, no, you don't have to it's actually even better not to have that position. And he proved that true too, at least in New York City. But now the problems. One, he's not a socialist.
He's a democratic socialist.
He's a democratic socialist, which is another word for Keynesian welfare capitalist, not a socialist of any kind. It's a euphemism.
Well, I don't think the DSA is a Keynesian capitalist.
I don't know what everyone in the DSA. I don't think everyone in the DSA is that. I think there's a war going on in the DSA to figure out what it is. But what he is a pro small business, you should have private ownership of the means of production, and you should have welfare programs which bolster the lives of working people, but funded through taxes. That's what he is. And so if you do that, and you call yourself a socialist, it's confusing to people what is socialism. I spend a lot of political education time trying to explain to people what socialism is. Socialism is working people are in power and in control of not just the government, but of the economy. Zohran, the people in charge of the economy in New York City will still be business owners. They will not be working people. And he's not pushing for that. Now, maybe he wishes that he could push for that, or in his ideal world, that might be true. But in the meantime, it's very confusing to people. So the confusion is fine. You can clear up confusion. The real problem is people's experience of capitalism is horror. And their experience of government welfare programs, particularly ones that are under constant pressure to be closed by a reactionary right wing, is this sucks. This is nowhere near good enough. I would rather go to a private hospital and be wealthy than be poor and go to whatever this public clinic is, right? So they go and they have those experiences. They say socialism is waiting in long lines at the post office as opposed to having someone really helpful at UPS. That's what their experience of socialism becomes, because they don't understand that when the guy is saying I'm a socialist, what he actually means is I'm a welfare capitalist. That's one problem. Is it distorts people's class consciousness of political education.
Well, maybe their experience of socialism will be hundreds of thousands of grassroots organizers organizing to achieve something, or maybe it will be
achieve what though?
Getting
Getting him elected is not an achievement for working class people, unless he can do something substantially for their life.
Well, I think that the capacity building of doing the organizing is very important, and in our current world, electoral politics happens to be what most people can most understand how to organize around. So I think that there's a lot of momentum and goodwill created in doing the organizing, and that's good.
Isn't that a self-fulfilling prophecy, though? You had, how many volunteers did you have?
100,000.
100,000 volunteers willing to go door to door and talk to people.
Yep.
Not about what capitalism is and why it's bad. Not about...
I don't know that they weren't talking about that.
You know what they're talking about. They're talking about Zohran Mamdani.
They built their platform largely by doing by canvassing and doing listening while they were canvassing and building their platform as they went. Like the free bus fare came from listening.
Okay.
So I think that they were talking to New Yorkers about what are the social issues that matter to you, what are the economic issues that matter to you, and how do we organize about those. And the outcome that they were ultimately looking at was to elect a mayor. But I think that now the outcome can be more specific, policy-based. And I think that that level of organizing and coalition building on the left is a positive form of politics that people now associate with socialism and democratic socialism and the DSA. And I do think most people also associate that with at least a critique of how things currently are, if not how capitalism is.
I think how capitalism is working right now, not of capitalism itself.
No, how capitalism is working right now is what we were all criticizing 10 years ago. Now most people are criticizing capitalism.
So that's perfect. And this is my response to you is the argument that they did this thing puts the cart before the horse. The people did this thing. The people in New York City are fucking sick to death of capitalism, and they're looking for an alternative.
Yes.
And the alternative that was offered to them was welfare Keynesian capitalism.
Let's see what happens.
Not the alternative they need, not one that tells the truth about their predicament and the way out of it.
So
channeled all that discontent back into electoralism.
Who says that the DSA and the 100,000 volunteers and the 1 million voters and Mamdani himself cannot continue to can't now that he's elected, tell a true story about capitalism?
Because I know he can, because he's already made peace with the leadership of the NYPD, which are the same NYPD that was brutalizing Gaza protesters in Colombia.
Peace with them?
Yes, he made peace.
What does that mean?
He's decided to keep multiple members of the top brass of the NYPD in place and not go to war with them. So that's one thing. Right. Well, and he said, I don't blame them. I blame Eric Adams. I don't blame them.
54 days between now and when he takes office. So I guess there's something for people to get organized around if that really is an issue that people want to take up. I can tell you that there is a bunch of progressive legislation that went to the mayor's office the last 3 or 4 years and got vetoed every single time by Eric Adams. So there are progressive coalitions that are trying to push through progressive ideas that at least now aren't going to get vetoed out of the gate. And I can also tell you that kind of organizing that can go from him being basically a nobody to him being the mayor of the capital of American empire and calling himself a socialist means that there's power in what's going on. Now, whether that power is going to be harnessed to do anything, I don't know. But I don't think you can dismiss that that's meaningful. And I do think that people are more critical of capitalism.
I know. I'm saying they're critical of capitalism. And they're saying that they got for that all that discontent is what they got was a guy who, for all intents and purposes, does not have a critique of capitalism. A fund
for them, and they can do and
because he was the only option.
Well, he wasn't the only option. So a lot of other people were running.
Well, the people who went door to door made a decision that they're going to spend their time and money and energy on a political project, which was to funnel people back to electoralism with the promise that you can reform the Democratic Party. And that's what this is really about, is a battle within the Democratic Party to reform it back to being something like a New Deal party. That's the actual reform that's happening. And these people think that they can win, and they might be able to win.
He got,
at least ideologically.
I mean, you're going to hate this, but he voted for himself on the Working Family Party's line, not the Democratic line. Like, there's
so okay, so
there's
fine, sure.
Interest in, it's not just reforming the Democratic Party. I know that this creates this bizarre lifeline to for the Democratic Party, even though the Democratic operatives are desperately trying to reject it, which gives a bunch of the people who live in the United States to like, oh, the Democrats aren't that bad. Look at Zohran, blah, blah, blah. I know that's very dangerous. I also don't think that that's all that this is and all this has to be.
So I hope to be wrong. And I think what we agree on is that if he is able to accomplish anything, it'll be because he avoids a mistake that Obama intentionally destroyed the electoral coalition that put him in power, and therefore did not have anyone pushing him.
Yeah. I don't think I don't think he's going to take those Obama steps.
No.
I think he intends to keep
we'll
that
see.
coalition.
We'll see.
Also, the coalition, screw what he fucking thinks. The coalition can decide that they're not going to be destroyed. He is now not the centerpiece.
No, he very much is the centerpiece. That's the centerpiece. Problem.
They elected him. Now he should not be the centerpiece.
Well, we'll see.
So I'm just saying it's not.
But there a lot of people have staked their political claim on him. So now they have to defend him. They have to defend him when he sends it in.
They don't have to defend him.
To put down a protest, they have to defend him.
They don't have to defend him.
Or I lied to you. He is not actually a socialist. Socialism is something else. What I told you was socialism and was going to make everything better. It's not, because I was wrong. But believe me, the next guy is a socialist, and you should vote for that.
They can defend the ideas, and they can say that this is not what we want, and they can talk about why he's doing what he's doing. But he should not be centered. He was the center. Electing him was the center of the project. That project is over.
You're giving them advice that they're not going to take.
I don't know. How do you know that?
All right, so if they don't take your advice, you say I was wrong about this. They are going to make Zohran the center of the political movement.
I'm saying that they should not. I'm not saying that they are, or I don't know. Listen, I'm not in the DSA. I imagine there's a steering committee that is spending a lot of time deciding what they're going to do with this. If they're listening, I would suggest that he is not the center, and that should be front and center in your talking points in the party, outside the party, to him. Probably he should be saying it out loud. He's not the project now. The project was to elect him. So, that is not what the project.
Just to take a step back for a second, just to illustrate this a little bit more, like he's not a legislator, which is a much easier thing to be as like a liberal left, radical left person like AOC. It's much easier to be a legislator because you just do votes. You know, she's fumbled that in my opinion, but that's much easier. Being a mayor and having to govern means having relationships with, yes, unions, political parties, religious communities, civil rights leaders, but also police departments, trash pickup places, the governor's mansion. There's about 1 billion rich people in New York City that he has to figure out some working relationship with them to govern. And this is like the communist critique of this is you cannot do it this way. You have to bring the government apparatus back to default and start over. You cannot seize it and make it work for you. So like you started this.
I don't disagree with that. Also, we have a current set of circumstances. So what's going to happen? I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's all of it is as doomed as you think it is. And I think there couldn't be positive things that come out of this.
Everything positive that could possibly happen will be completely undone the moment he does not fire police officers for beating. Like, you're saying two things that are contradictory, right? And there's always contradictions in politics. That's fine. You're saying that in order for him to get rent stabilization across the city, which is a promise of his, he's going to need massive public demonstrations and pressure.
I don't know that I've said that, or that he needs that.
All right. You're saying he needs a movement behind him that will stay behind him and push and make sure that like there's a political counterweight to all the reactionary pressure he's going to face.
I agree.
Right? We agree on that. And that's what he won't do what Obama did, which is destroy the electoral coalition. He's going to keep it as a governing coalition.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. The same person who needs that governing coalition to be as like militant and outspoken and willing to be in the streets and stuff, he needs that. He also is a person who governs public safety and governs the NYPD, who will be there right here at the same
governing
protest.
them, or is he their boss?
He's their boss, but he also has to function. So
have you seen how bosses work, though?
How do the bosses work?
I mean, bosses. If my boss tells me to go do something, I have to go do that thing.
Yeah.
Even if I'm the police.
Yeah.
And
which is why most people will expect that they won't be there firing tear gas in people's faces. But what will happen is they will be firing tear gas in people's faces, and he will either have to have a very dramatic public confrontation with the NYPD, which I don't think he's willing to do, but let's say maybe he does, or he has to stand by them and completely unravel the political coalition. Because he's basically supporting the fascist thugs who are undoing.
Well, I don't know what he does in that situation. It's possible,
but he can't stop them. My point is he can't stop them even if he wants to, because it has a mind of its own. They answer to a larger authority than the mayor of New York. But most people are not interested in hearing excuses about how the mayor of New York is not able to rein in the NYPD. And also, it betrays the whole lie behind this, which is if I get in power, I can fix some of this stuff, when he doesn't actually have any power as mayor of New York.
If he gets in power, he can, like any mayor or governing person, do some work to fix some things. And he probably will. And I don't subscribe to the black and white thinking that he either can do it, and then he's doing it and things are working, and then the minute XYZ happens, it will unravel. I do think that I don't know how much of this is just like a self-moving apparatus that happens with or without the mayor's involvement, like you're suggesting. And I guess we will find out. Yeah. New York is also going to be very different than other smaller cities. He is the police's boss.
Yeah, he's nominally the police's boss, but the real people in charge of our society, which are not elected politicians, have spent a very long time building the New York Police Department as the frontline defense of their private property. And those people are ideologically committed.
Yeah, I agree, and those real people just spent an awful lot of their real money to try not to have this guy elected. So clearly there's some risk in having him in charge.
Sure.
If there was no risk, if it was just like, well, we're going to still do what we want to do anyways, the police are going to still call us instead of call him, then why spend any money?
Yeah. I mean, I can't refute the fact that they clearly didn't want him. So, and that would seem to imply that there's a reason they didn't want him. I think mostly what they want is they want people to not vote for him more than they are worried about him being in power.
Why? Why have people not vote for him?
Because they think that they want where people are in their political development is a serious threat, much more than who the.
Well, maybe the best thing that can happen is that having someone like him as mayor is not all downside in people's political development. You're saying it's all downside because he will let you down. It's all downside because you just wasted all your time. It's all downside because now you have to defend somebody like him when you shouldn't be defending somebody like him. But what if it's more complex and it's not all downside? Voting for him, participating in this, maybe there's some upside here. Maybe working with him as a governing body, maybe there's some upside in people's political development.
Well, we'll see. I hope I'm wrong.
You don't hope you're wrong. You know you want to be right. You think you're right.
I don't. That's not. I don't want to be right. I believe I'm right.
He's going to.
And I think I was right about AOC in exactly the same way.
To be really clear, I don't think he's going to be leading the communist revolution.
No, I know that you're not saying that. The question is not whether this fixes the whole problem, right? The question is whether this is a important material step in the right direction or counterproductive. And my position is it's counterproductive.
I think it might be a little bit of both, and we don't know yet. I also think he actually is forcing AOC to go back to what she originally said she was doing. If there's some pressure, yeah, I think she's showing up differently. I also think I want to be a fly on the wall in the DSA meetings, though. I have a lot of FOMO that I'm not.
Well, you can join the DSA.
I think that those are really interesting. Like that's a significant leftist party.
I mean, there's no question that the New York DSA is the most politically significant sort of leftoid political formulation in the country.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. People feel like he's the real deal because he seems to believe it himself, and he hasn't done any of the really horrible things that people do. I mean, I've noticed him being a little bit cagier because he got a little bit risk averse as they got close. Because like, there's the only thing I can do now is fuck this up, so I'm just gonna like keep some of my thoughts to myself until I get across the finish line. Which that fine, that's respectable, but Bernie, people had this experience of Bernie radicalizing people, and I don't think that's what happened. I think people were radicalized by their experiences. I don't think Bernie doesn't exist. People are being radicalized by their experience of capitalism. And Zohran doesn't exist. People in New York City are being radicalized by their experiences of capitalism. The DSA, New York DSA, is very politically significant, and their responsibility is to take that horror and discontent about the system and funnel it into a political program to lead a movement, right? The movement is ready to go from being a simmering mass, which has no direction and no organization, and to organize it and give it a leadership and a structure and a direction. And my worry is, like, they get to take the credit for all these people's votes. I don't think you need to convince people to be against Cuomo that much. I think people fucking hate him for good reason. What you have to do, though, is convince them that the way to solve their problems is to vote for Zohran. And that's my worry, is that instead of asking them to do all kinds of other things, policy-wise, organization-wise, you ask them to vote for Zohran. So that ship has been spent, the political capital has been spent, and now we have to see what comes of it, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see.